If you've ever felt confident practicing at home, but completely lost when playing with your worship team, the problem probably isn't your skill, it's more likely how you go about practicing. Think about it like this. Practicing guitar on your own in isolation is kind of like learning to race Formula 1, but on a PlayStation. Sunday morning, however, is like sitting in an actual F1 car where the stakes are completely different, everything else is different, and today I'd like to show you the missing piece that will go ahead and bridge that gap between the bedroom practice and Sunday morning confidence. Specifically, I'm going to break down the 3 levels of guitar practice. I'm going to show you why most worship guitarists get stuck at level 1, and I'll show you how to use worship-focused backing tracks to simulate that real team playing experience and the specific skills that you can only develop when practicing like this. I'm going to show you exactly how to choose backing tracks to transform your practice sessions into proper Sunday morning preparation. Now, most worship guitarists practice at what I call level 1, which is playing alone in complete silence, just them and their guitar. This is kind of like learning to drive in an empty parking lot. Sure, you can practice some of your basic chord changes and strumming patterns, but you're kind of missing the entire context of what a Sunday morning actually requires. And then when you step on stage on a Sunday morning, when you've got the drums laying down the groove, the bass is providing the foundation, you've got keys adding texture, vocals carrying the melody and the lyrics, and there's a full congregation of people watching, suddenly you're not just playing chords, but you're kind of fitting into a complex musical ecosystem. And if your only preparation was that empty parking lot practice, then you're going to feel completely overwhelmed when the reality of being on stage hits. Now, some guitarists move to level 2, playing along with the original worship recordings. This is definitely better because at least you're playing with the other instruments, but there are kind of 3 problems with this approach if that is the only thing that you do. First of all the guitar parts are already on the recording, so you're essentially just learning to copy someone else's decisions when it comes to crafting guitar parts, rather than developing your own voice and creativity on the instrument. Secondly, playing with the actual recording, it has all the right cues and the right times for different things to happen, but when you play with your band on a Sunday, without all of those cues, and without all the parts that are already right there, it's easy to get lost. Meaning that when you play with a recording, the whole song is going to carry on whether you are right or not. But when you are playing on your own, or you're going to start playing with the worship team on a Sunday morning, the arrangement might be different. You no longer have those familiar cues that you heard in the recording. Everything is going to be different from that recording, and maybe you don't have 3 guitar players like Hillsong does. Maybe your drummer plays with a different feel, or something kind of throws you off a little bit, or the worship leader takes a song in a different direction. There's all these things that can happen on a Sunday, but if all that you practiced is copying the original note for note, then you're not really going to be prepared to adapt and create your own appropriate parts. And that's why I believe that level 3 is really the game changer for practicing, which is worship-focused backing tracks. This is kind of like having access to an advanced F1 simulator with full virtual reality. Everything feels real, it responds like the real thing, but it gives you that safe space to practice and experiment, and also use the power of repetition to your favor in order to develop those essential worship guitar skills. So what makes worship-focused backing tracks so effective? Well, first of all, they're created in the right genre with authentic worship grooves and feels. It has to sound like worship music. It doesn't help if you grab a 12-bar blues backing track and you just, want to learn worship stuff over that, because that's going to not fit the genre. Second, you want to use backing tracks with the appropriate tempos that's going to match real worship context. You don't want to use things that have got different feels and different tempos and different grooves. You want to make sure that it's matching the real worship context. And then thirdly and finally, you want to make sure that they feature the common chord progressions that you're actually going to be using on a Sunday morning, and help you to do that in different keys, different types of progressions, different tempos. Because once all of those things are in place, it kind of gives you this open canvas, this professional musical foundation with space for you to develop your own parts and your own expression. It's kind of like having a worship band that's never going to get tired, it's never going to make mistakes, it's going to be always ready to practice and ready to help when you want to go ahead and develop your worship guitar skills. So what I want to show you now is a couple of things that you can do when you have worship-focused backing tracks that you simply can't develop when practicing on your own without any tracks or when playing along with the actual recording. The first thing is that you learn to fill space appropriately. You know, as guitar players, we are kind of sonic architects, so sometimes you need to know when to leave room and when to play, how much is enough versus how much is too much. When you have these backing tracks, you can record yourself, and then afterwards you can listen to how does your guitar fit within that mix and within that space with the other instrument, bass, keys, drums, etc. Secondly, you're going to learn to develop the rhythmic foundation by feeling the drum groove and learning to respond to it naturally. Your strumming patterns and your rhythms and your timing and your feel, it really needs to breathe with the music instead of fighting against it or just kind of sounding super mechanical. Third, you'll develop harmonic awareness. This is understanding how your chord voicings and your note choices interact with the progression and support the overall sound rather than competing with it. Fourth, you'll work on your articulation. This is how the notes speak and interact with the other instruments, and essentially this is how you can learn to make your guitar sing rather than just making random noises. And then fifth, you can practice any theoretical concepts that you're working on in a musical context. For example, if you want to learn to take triad shapes and just play the triad shapes over and over, the backing tracks will give you that harmonic foundation to practice this musically rather than just on its own or kind of from an academic point of view where you just learn the shapes. You don't just want to learn the shapes, you want to learn the shapes at the right tempo, in the right progression, in different keys, and also you can transcend just the mere shapes and you can start to see how can you use triads to play lead lines or whatever the case may be, but do it with a clean canvas, so to speak. And then finally, you learn to develop some dynamic control and timing precision that can only come when you are playing with a rhythm section. When you play on your own, there's no rhythm section that you are playing with. Your timing might be out, whatever the case will be, it's not going to be exposed because you don't have the consistent groove of a band going. When you have backing tracks, you can go ahead and put on a track in a specific key, in a specific progression, at a specific tempo, and then it will show you what your dynamic control and timing precision looks like in context. Now, like I said before, not all backing tracks are created equal. You need specific worship-focused tracks and not generic pop or rock or blues backing tracks. You get those on the internet. Obviously, people spend a ton of time saying, give me a rock backing track in E minor, which is a load of fun if you want to rip out some pentatonic licks, but it's not really going to help you with regards to what you have to do on a Sunday morning, because your muscle memory needs to develop specific skills and worship grooves and feels and techniques, and that's why you need these tracks in multiple keys, because of course, as we all know, Sunday morning doesn't always happen in G major. You want different tempos so you can build your skills and then gradually practice things at different speeds that you'll actually encounter on a Sunday. And most importantly, you need tracks that are built around the common worship progressions, the patterns that's going to show up in the songs that you play on Sunday mornings. And then, of course, the production quality is also important because you want something that's going to actually simulate the real experience of playing with a professional team. So let's say you're doing a song on Sunday that the progression is 1-4-6-5, or at least one of the progressions within a song, and you want to take your 4-2 dyads and you just want to learn to practice those dyads in the musical setting. Well, what you can do is you can go ahead and pull up a backing track if you have one. Let me show you an example here that we have on our website, which is a new set of tracks we've just recently added. So I can go to our 4-chord progressions. I can click on 1-4-6-5. And like I said, we're going to be doing this in the key of C. So I can scroll down. There's one at 68 beats a minute, but then let's just say we want to do the one at 74 beats a minute. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to click on that backing track and I'll show you how I can go ahead and practice my 4-2 voicings over that backing track using just the 4-2 dyads. Check this out. 4. So there you can see it's just that same progression. It's repeating over and over and over. Let's say you want to also practice what you've just done now in the key of D. Well, all you do, if you have the backing tracks in different keys, just go ahead and click on a different key, and let's check that out right now. 4. So that's how easy it is. You just find the progression, you find the key, you find the relevant tempo, and then you're off to the races. Now, let's say you want to practice something that is just 2 chords on its own. Well, then we've also got some 2-chord vamps, and I can click on 2-chord vamps like this, and then let's go ahead and find a 1-4 progression. And let's say I want to play this in the key of G major, and I want to go ahead and practice kind of some syncopated playing. Well, I can go ahead and do this right now. Check it out. I'm going to click on the G major, and I'm going to play along with that. So as you can see in that instance, I only had to play 2 chords, and I was able to just either experiment with some improvisation over G and C, or I can also go ahead and play chords where I don't have to worry about playing 4 chords right after each other. I can just focus on 2 chords. Now let's say you want to do the 4 chords, but you want a little bit more time per chord. Well, in that case, you can click on the 4 chords progressions extended, and now I can go ahead and click on, again, let's do the C major one. Let's choose another one. Let's go ahead and choose the 4-1-5-6 in the key of C, and now I'm going to have 2 bars per chord. So I've got more time to think about my chord changes and to use the power of repetition to drill my muscle memory. Let's go ahead and check out this one, 4-1-5-6 in the key of G. Let's do the key of G, 4-1-5-6 in the key of G. Here we go. as you can see in that example, there were 2 bars per chord. So I actually have more time just to think about what I'm going to do when I'm practicing triads in that instance. So either you can use it as a way to practice just triads or any voicings, or you can actually practice along with songs. Meaning you can take the actual parts you're going to play over a song, but you can play it in a backing track where there's not any guitar parts already played, and you can kind of see how and where you want to fill the space. So those are just a couple of ways in which you can go ahead and use worship-focused backing tracks to enhance your practice sessions. If you want to bridge that gap between practicing and performance, and you're looking for a library of backing tracks, then I've created hundreds of high-quality worship-focused backing tracks specifically designed for this purpose. These aren't just generic tracks. They're built around the progressions, the keys, the different tempos that you'll actually encounter in modern worship. Plus, I've included some targeted drills and different lessons to help you maximize your practice time and develop the skills that matter most specifically as it relates to modern worship. Now, check the description below for a link to these backing track bundles that will really help you to transform your practice sessions. Remember, backing tracks aren't just a nice addition to your practice routine. They're really the bridge between practicing on your own and confident team playing. Your Sunday morning confidence really depends on realistic practice that's going to prepare you for the real environment that you'll be playing in. And as I always say, when you practice like you'll play like you've practiced, and those things will be aligned. So start incorporating some worship-focused backing tracks into your practice routine this week, and you'll watch how quickly your musical confidence and musicality will improve. Have fun. If you want to check out one of our tracks, you can check it out right here, and also the link in the description will show you where you can pick up these backing track bundles.